I'm yet to find an honest answer to the question, what have you personally learned from an MBA? I've been told many times that I'm too honest for the business world, but I don't see that as a negative trait. I think it's a good thing. Someone should tell the truth. So from someone that's been through an MBA, I'm here to share my honest journey with you, what I found difficult, what I found easy, and what it was just personally like doing this program. And these are things that people would not necessarily share with you, because perhaps they're worried it's going to make them look vulnerable, weak, incompetent. I think more people feel that way than we actually realize. Because the very first thing that I would like to share is that everybody suffers from imposter syndrome. I don't know if you've ever heard about it, but basically it means that you don't feel like you belong and you think that you're the only one feeling that way. It's very easy to look from the outside in, and maybe a picture or a video, and look at the people in the class and think, you know what, I don't fit in that kind of environment. But the moment you sit in that room and you start hearing the questions and you realize, I thought the same thing, or I had the same question, or you hear someone saying something completely different, you realize, but everybody is out of their comfort zone. It's not just you, but it's a real feeling that you don't feel like you belong. And I think I felt that way for the duration of that year. Because you just get on top of something, you just finish a module, or you do an assignment, or you write an exam, and you finish with that module, you move on to the next one. Bam, it's all over again. You sit there and you think, oh, I don't know what I'm doing. Especially if there are people around you who might have been experts in the field. For instance, finance. I don't have a finance background. So sitting in financial accounting or management accounting with all of these financial managers around me, it's hard to keep reminding myself, remember they've done this for a living. So if they have an answer and you don't, it doesn't mean that you are stupid or you don't belong here. It just means that, well, this is what they do for a living. If I had to take all of them out and I would plonk them in a delivery room, which is my background, I think they might all pass out. Imposter syndrome is a very real thing. Another thing that I've learned was that I had almost zero self-belief. But when I started the program, we did a 360 review, and I had to send my previous employers and colleagues a questionnaire to complete about how they experienced me in the workplace. And I was nearly in tears when I opened the report because I was scared of the kind of feedback that I was going to get. I ended up in tears, but it was happy tears. It was not a bad report at all. I really expected them to say how lazy I was, how bad I was at my job, really, really negative self-talk kind of things. It was the opposite. I was really hardworking, and I was positive, and I was a team player, and it was mind-blowing to realize how far removed I am from reality when I look at myself. It took this one little review and a year of an MBA to get me to start believing in myself again. So it was a really good exercise. I'm really glad we did it. It's really uncomfortable, but it's an eye-opener. And then that leads into the next thing, was that I didn't realize I was able to do so much more. I always felt that I could learn rather quickly and I could master things quickly, but there are only so many things that you have to learn. If you've worked in the same ward, in the same environment for years, then you basically stop learning at some point, and you stop trying new things, and you stop thinking that you can do new things. And here I was, 20 plus new subjects, everything, literally every subject was new. Nothing was healthcare related, and I had to start from scratch with every subject, orientate myself with a textbook, understanding terms and terminology, and feeling very overwhelmed the first couple of days until I get into it and you wrap your mind around it. And at the end of the module, I look back and I think to myself, how did I do that? I don't actually know, but wow, I didn't know I was capable of doing this. And let me tell you, it's a very empowering feeling, because suddenly you realize, what is my limit? And you think to yourself, do I have a limit? The only thing putting a limit on your own personal growth and capabilities is you. Having said that though, what I also realized, I was in a room full of smart people who have, or let's call it successful people. They've made it somewhere in life. They had good career growth. They were going somewhere. Although I might have felt that I was different in the nursing environment because I often pushed the boundaries and I basically questioned everything, I started feeling like I was a little bit special in nursing because I was thinking in a different way than everybody else. Then I got put in this classroom. It was a kind of feeling, I'm not special, but I'm actually 100% okay with it, because for the first time in my life, I really do feel that I'm starting to get to know who I really am. And I don't need to be Albert Einstein and good with numbers. And I don't need to be some Pablo Picasso artist to be good or creative. What I am is enough for where I need to be. But the fact that I was a generalist was in its own way my expertise. And I think for many people pursuing this degree. Then the power of networking. I've heard about networking many times before, and during that year obviously there was a lot of talk about you need to network, you need to build your network. It was a very scary thought because in my mind I was thinking, how do I network with people? In the MBA, you do network with your fellow classmates, but that was just a starting point. Many of them already had networks. I came in new, I had to start my network from scratch, and I thought it is this uncomfortable conversation about the weather and Bitcoin and the news. That's how you build your network. And it took me a couple of years to realize that the term networking actually it's a much more natural process. Okay, then the power of collaboration. In nursing, I used to work on my own a lot. You are part of a team, but in the environment I was in, teamwork was not the greatest ever, either because of a lack of resources. There was maybe simply not enough staff. I attended many births completely on my own. There was just no one around to give me a hand or to assist. So you get used to working on your own a lot. And in the MBA, there was a massive focus on teamwork, and I hated it. In the beginning, it was terrible because all I wanted to do was I wanted to focus on my assignment, get my job done, carry on. Now I sit with a team and everybody works at a different pace. I come from a nursing environment. I'm used to not walking. I'm basically kind of jogging in the ward in real life. Even today, I cannot just walk through a mall. I mission through a mall. But it was a hard thing to realize that I actually have to work in a team and that everybody had to contribute to an assignment or to a project that we were working on. But it was an incredibly good learning opportunity to understand the value that each team member brings, but also to understand the conflict management if someone didn't do their part. And how I personally dealt with that situation, either talking to the person, ignoring it, just taking on their load on top of my own, which I did in the beginning because I was kind of used to doing that in nursing. You just carry on. So it was an incredibly good exercise to learn to rely on other people and trust that other people can also do their job. Self-reflection was a big focus. So we had a leadership module, and self-reflection was a huge part because in order to lead other people, you kind of have to have a better understanding of who you are yourself, who you want to be, and just the whole concept about emotional intelligence, which you will find in one of my videos. But it is really important to understand how other people perceive you and the impact that you have on them before you think about the impact that they have on you. And we basically wrote our entire life story or journey from the time that you could remember until the point of pursuing an MBA. And it was a really good exercise because during the MBA, my parents went through a divorce. So it was kind of a healing process for me to put all of my emotions on paper because it was part of an assignment, but also just to get it out, like a little bit of therapy. And then one very random thing that I learned was how people process things differently. So there is this notion in society that if you are smart with numbers, you are automatically smart. It means you have a good IQ. Intelligence is very often measured by how good you are with numbers. How quickly can you analyze data or financial statements? And while that is definitely a sure sign of intelligence, it is not a blanket statement. Up till that point, I always measured myself with those people and drew the conclusion that I must not be very smart because I am not numbers smart. But then again, I got accepted into the MBA program, which required you to have some level of intelligence, and now I was confused. But during the MBA, working on the different projects and finding my own strengths, I realized that numbers smart is not the only smart that you need. There are different kinds of smart. Emotional intelligence, that is a very unique kind of smart. And certain ways of thinking, very strategic thinking, that is also a way of being smart, which is not necessarily numbers. And I realized that while I might not enjoy working with numbers as much as the financial manager that sits next to me, while it might take me a minute longer to find the answer that he shouted out in the classroom, 2 seconds after the question was asked, that it does not mean that I don't have my own way of being smart. And I don't know if you need to hear this today, but it's a very powerful way of thinking that you process things differently than other people. When I realized I process things differently, and it's okay to process them in this way instead of this way. It doesn't mean if you process it like this that you're not smart like the people who process it like this. It changed my whole perception about my own abilities. Here's an example. Statistics was my least favorite class. I'm really not a statistician. I don't think I will ever be able to do that. But we had a lot of engineering students in the class. They obviously did statistics when they were doing their undergrad. So when we had some questions coming up, and I would sit in the class fighting back tears because I still tried to understand the question and they already answered the question. And let me tell you, that is not a pleasant feeling. Not if it's the first or the second week of starting the MBA and you're starting to think, have I made a huge mistake because I can't actually do this? And then we started doing other modules and it required a bit of creativity. And then I sat there with new ideas and I could quickly come up with a concept in Canva and putting a whole campaign together, and it's colorful and it's fun. And then those same students would sit there with blank expressions. They actually don't know how to do this because it's not really their strength. And it was a good moment to realize that it's okay. Let them have their numbers. I have my own strengths. We can't all be good in the same thing. And I can still do what I need to do with my way of being smart. So if this is you and you don't feel like you're number smart, please let this be your takeaway message today. That is not the benchmark of intelligence. Society makes you think it is, but it's not. And then the last thing is the power of Excel. That was probably the best thing I've learned during that year. Look, if I've done any other degree that was more or less somewhere in corporate, I probably would have learned about Excel. But I haven't done that in nursing. But my world opened up when I started getting familiar with Excel. I still use it every single day, building models and all sorts of things. And it's just, power of Excel is just endless. But you don't need an MBA to learn Excel. There are many ways to do it. There are exceptional YouTube videos on learning Excel. I'm just saying this was something that I definitely learned during an MBA. So the takeaway message that I want to share with you in the face of honesty here is that an MBA means different things to different people. The biggest impact it had on me is self-belief. Because I came from an environment that people would not normally expect you to come from if you want to do an MBA, I was fighting the imposter syndrome daily. I think everybody was, but I felt that fight daily. The best lesson I can share with you at this point, if you also struggle with self-belief and not really understanding what your own capabilities are, self-reflection, keeping a journal, writing every day about what you're feeling, that is such a great point to understand. Maybe there's something in your life when you were small that influenced a lot about who you are today and who you became as an adult. It doesn't have to keep influencing it. If you're aware of it, you can start taking action. But if you don't, you risk going through life not thinking that you can do much, not unlocking your full potential, and not realizing that the only person holding you back is not your manager or that career opportunity or your family or your kids or your finances. The only person holding you back is you. If this resonates for you, make a change today. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.